Hey everybody, I'm here today with Stacy Pickering of We Are Vibrational Energy, and we're going to have a little conversation about healing and awakening and what kind of work Stacy does that you might be able to use on your healing and awakening journey. So, Stacy, you have your company We Are Vibrational Energy, and tell us a little bit about what you do as a healer.
Okay. I do polarity therapy, Reiki, reflexology. I do some coaching, lifestyle and nutrition coaching, which is based in Ayurveda. And I do sound and vibrational therapy or healing.
Okay, and so why We Are Vibrational Energy? Why did you choose that name for your business?
Well, for one thing, it's an acronym for the word wave.
Okay.
And I associate a lot with water as a healing force that I've always been drawn to, and also because of waves of sound and vibration that I feel run through everything and all of us and connect us to each other and to our essence and to source, and which when we connect with, we know our wholeness, which is what I mean by the word healing, is
Okay.
knowing our wholeness.
Okay, so like a regular person walking down the street is not whole.
Oh, the opposite. I feel that we are all whole
Okay.
innately.
Okay.
And it's when we feel otherwise, it's because we are just disconnected from our knowing of our wholeness.
Okay, and how does that happen? How do you get disconnected from your knowing?
Well, we are energy and concentrated into matter, and we have an essence which is vibrating at a certain place or frequency, and the world is vibrating at all kinds of frequencies and other vibrations, and all kinds of forces are coming at us or surrounding us, affecting us in different ways all the time. And because of those, the impact emotionally and physically and spiritually of all of those external forces, we are thrown off balance and out of our knowing. Also because the world is so loud, it's hard to listen to that inner knowing and to just take the time for stillness where we can hear ourselves and know ourselves and our wellness and wholeness.
Okay, and so how are some ways that we can do that to get back to that stillness?
Well, one of the ways is the simplest thing, and that is to breathe fully and completely. Most of us are only breathing into our chest, and the breath is kind of getting trapped there and then up here. So we're in our heads and we're in our chest, and the air is constricted. In order to be fully operating in a balanced and whole way, we need to get the breath all the way down, especially into the gut, into the belly, which is our power center. Physically because of digestion, and energetically because that's where the fire is, which catalyzes our movement and action and power. So we have to get the breath down there. And also that allows the breath to move all the way through us and allows us to get into our body and out of our head, which is chattering and worrying and scattered all over all the time.
So maybe if you feel like stressed out and like you're thinking all the time and there are all these forces working against you, that maybe one thing you can do is just start moving your breath down.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and most of us have access to that. Most of us have the ability to breathe on our own, and so that's a simple and free thing that we can do. It doesn't cost anything, and it's always available to us.
Okay, so how did you get started on this healing path?
Well, for me, it started with food, I would say. My conscious journey with it started with food when I was a teenager and I became vegetarian, and I started to have to cook for myself because my family didn't eat the way that I did. And through reading about nutrition, I started to learn about wellness in general, and I fell in love with cooking and nourishing myself and others with food and herbs, and I followed that path for a while, which led me to start some food businesses, and I worked at a holistic healing school where I was introduced to a lot of the different healing modalities, and because the students had to practice, they always came to the kitchen staff to practice their different healing modalities, and so I got to experience a lot of different types of massage and energy work, and I learned a lot more about nutrition there, and I also learned more about yoga and meditation. So that place, Heartwood Institute in California, which was the place that introduced me to a lot more of the healing arts.
Okay. Awesome. And so now, how long have you been doing wave? Or do you refer to it as wave, or we are vibrational energy?
I usually say we are vibrational energy, but either is fine with me.
Okay.
I like them both.
How long have you been doing that?
Well, I have been practicing energy work. I've been practicing Reiki for about 7 years. I've been practicing polarity therapy, reflexology, and coaching for about 4 years. And I've been practicing sound healing for about the same amount, 4 years. And that name for my business or my practice came to me about 2 years ago.
Okay. Can you give us just a little snippet of information about, you mentioned polarity therapy and reflexology, and probably a lot of people are not familiar with those, and just a little description of what each of those is?
Sure. So both of them are based in Ayurveda, which is an ancient Eastern Indian healing system or system of wellness, and it's all about the balance within us. And it includes some aspects of nutrition and lifestyle, and it also includes some body work, which works on identifying patterns of imbalance in the body and in the energy system, and using different types of touch and movement to help facilitate release of blockages and allow the proper flow of energy so that you can come back into your most balanced state.
Okay, so it's kind of like massage, but...
Yeah, some of the things feel like massage, but it's less focused on fluid movements, with the muscles and fascia and everything, and more focused on specific points. Acupressure points are used, and then specific types of movement, which are like rocking and things that help actually like signal the body's energy to move out of stuck places and flow. And then reflexology, it's elemental reflexology, which it's called that because it's based on Ayurveda and the way that the elements are represented in us and can be in balance or out of balance. And it looks at the ways that everything that happens in the body, emotions, spiritual, everything is all reflected in the feet. So you can work on anything that's going on just by working on the feet.
Okay, so those two are similar, except polarity therapy would be the whole body,
Right.
and reflexology would be specifically the feet.
Yes, and
Okay.
every polarity session includes some reflexology, but I can also just work on the feet, especially if there's acute symptoms in the body or something where you wouldn't want to apply direct pressure. You can work on the feet instead of working directly on those places on the body.
Interesting. Okay, so if I have a pain in my shoulder, you could work on my feet, and that might help that.
Yep.
Okay. And how about the sound healing that you do? Tell us about that.
Well, I was introduced to crystal singing bowls probably about 5 or so years ago. I went to hear a crystal singing bowl meditation, and it was really life-changing for me. I had the experience of lying down while this woman played crystal singing bowls and did some vocalization. And I had this entire visual journey with my eyes closed where I could see sort of the patterns of energy in my body. I could see blockages and I could see them unraveling and coming into patterns of harmony. And it was the first time I could remember ever seeing energy as color and light and patterns. I don't usually have a visual experience of it. I just feel it. But sound, it was profound for me in that way. I could actually see my tension and imbalances unraveling and coming into harmony. So it was very powerful for me, and I was like, I have to do this. I have to experience it as much as possible, and then it sort of organically started to unfold for me to do that work, to share it with others. So,
Okay, and so you do group sessions and individual sessions
yep,
with that? Okay.
yes.
All right, and there was another thing. Oh, so do you have maybe a specific client that you can think of that how you have impacted their life, or how this healing work that you're doing has impacted their life?
Well, I can think of one client who I think, equally impacted each other's lives, or she may have impacted my life even more. But I worked with this woman who was dying, and I had never worked with anyone who was dying before, but a member of her family had heard about me through someone and asked me to come do energy work with her. And,
Was it to help her through the process of
it
dying,
was-
or to try to heal her, or?
It was not to try to heal her from dying. I mean, everyone knew that it was her time, and she was, but it was to help her feel at peace and maybe alleviate some of the stress and the suffering. So I went to work with her, and it was interesting because I didn't really know what I would do. And a lot of what I ended up doing was singing and playing a lot of sound and music. She actually had her whole family around, and they would leave the room. She was in hospice, and it was at her son's home. And they would leave the room, but they would all go out to wherever on the other side of the door, and she could hear them, we could hear them, and they would be like arguing about things that would happen after she died. And it was, I could tell that it was really upsetting for her and stressful, and I would hold her feet, and that really like calms someone's energy. But also I just felt really compelled to create some other sound, some other vibration besides that vibration that was created by her family arguing and by her stress. And so I ended up doing a lot of intuitive chanting and singing, and I did some, basic polarity and Reiki and reflexology as well. But she really taught me in a lot of ways, also by things that she said, but the experience of working with her taught me about trusting my intuition in a situation where I went into it not knowing what it would be, or how it would be, or what I would do. And one of the things that she said to me, which led me to knowing that, was I was telling her, because we ended up being friends, and we would have these conversations, and I said, I have to learn how to trust myself. And she said, you have to learn to trust God to come out of your mouth. And although I haven't always been comfortable with the word God, and some people aren't, but you could replace that with spirit or
God as you understand it.
Right, exactly. Whatever that means for you, the universe. And that has stuck with me and has been one of the most powerful lessons in my life and in my work.
Nice. Awesome. So, okay, let's just talk a little bit more about vibrations and so, like, people talk about, oh, someone has a good vibe, or I didn't get a good vibe from them, or that we're supposed to raise our vibration. Like, can you talk a little bit about vibration and why we want to take care of our vibration or raise our vibration?
Well, so everything that exists has energy, and the more that energy is concentrated, it becomes matter as it's concentrated. And there is, I believe, a vibration or multiple vibrations that are harmonious, that are vibrations of wholeness and wellness. And I mean that for each individual and for the world. And I think of the things that throw things out of that harmonious vibration in the world are physical things like pollution and things like that. And we can think of that on the personal level as well, that the things that we're putting into our internal world can physically toxify us, and just in the ways that the earth can become physically toxified, and that it does because of whatever kinds of waste and things like that we're creating, but also on emotional and spiritual levels, we're we are and the world is outputting all kinds of vibration, which is not necessarily concentrated into matter as it's coming forth. Negativity, old stories that we tell ourselves, like things that are done that hurt other people or that create pain or suffering in any way, but that those things do become matter, that those emotionally and spiritually toxic things do manifest in the world and in ourselves in patterns of imbalance
as aches and pains and illness.
Exactly, as aches and pains and illness, just the way that it does in the ocean, for instance, or there are parts of us that get ill, and that's not just physical either, but mental illnesses and all of that as well, emotional sickness, depression, anxiety, and all of that, and that all comes from these certain vibrations that are not harmonious. And I've sort of changed my language kind of recently around raising the vibration. I do think that it is important to raise the vibration and to be in a place that's lighter, and that you can release a lot of heaviness or toxicity and become lighter, and that some of the vibrations of sound are higher vibrations, and it's important to experience that. But also, I've started to understand how the lower vibrations are also important to connect with, and to know that there are lower vibrations that are healing too. So it's actually finding a place of harmony in the vibration, and even to move through some of the lower vibrations to see what is there to learn there, or what kind of light is there actually if you move through some of that dense stuff.
So I just would like to thank Stacy Pickering of We Are Vibrational Energy once again for joining us today and sharing your wisdom and your experiences with us about your healing and awakening journey. And so if people want to find out more about your services, about your work, about events, how can they do that?
You can follow me at Facebook at We Are Vibrational Energy, and also on Instagram. And I'm soon to launch my website, and that information will be available on my Facebook and Instagram pages, and also, I believe, in the comment section for this video.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. It's been such a pleasure.
Thanks, Jeannie.
Hearing about your work, and keep it up.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.